Occupational therapy is a therapy provided um, for patients who have had an injury or illness that has affected the way they perform their activities of daily living, which may be their self-care, could be their work or leisure or all. You know, usually you have an illness, it's going to affect the way you perform your activities of daily living throughout every aspect of your life. So what occupational therapy is all about is helping a person restore function through purposeful activities to maximize their functional independence and get back to those daily activities as independently as possible. So there's a variety of situations that may come up to offer the need for occupational therapy, but really the bottom line is getting back to independence in their daily life. I would see a lot of orthopedic injuries, meaning maybe you've had carpal tunnel, tennis elbow, maybe you've had a fracture of your shoulder or your hand. We also work with neurological patients here as well, and may see somebody who's had a stroke. We have a wonderful new program with Parkinson's, and we do a lot of Parkinson's patients, and with a program called LSVT, and that is something to help them, again, just maximize their functional ability in their daily life. It's not only getting that, we can't always give somebody back to 100% recovery. We try to. However, sometimes it's about adapting their environment or adapting the way they do things. And that's another specialty of occupational therapy. We really help modify activities and help give them alternative ways of doing things so they can still be independent.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for joining everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome again. It's Monday. You know what time it is. It's time for mental health as well. This is the podcast where we make the ultimate connection between your mind, your health, and your money. I'm just the guy they call Doc Dillinger. Today we have another expert in the building online. So anybody got questions, go ahead, drop them in the chat. We're gonna see if we can address them as quick. We have Dr. Monica J. Jones. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's such a pleasure to have you. Uh, um, I'm so excited every week to just dive into more and more information. And when it comes to this topic of mental health, it seems like it goes broader and broader, no matter how deep I dig. So I'm excited to get some information and see what we can learn and what we can help people with.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So first off, we'll just jump into a little bit about yourself. Can you share a little bit about your journey into occupational therapy and your background and specializing in mental health?
Yeah, I've been an occupational therapist since 2014, and I currently live in a very rural area of California. And so I work at a critical access hospital, which just means a really tiny hospital in kind of the middle of nowhere. And I'd always been interested in mental health and helping people in kind of an outpatient setting. And in school, we learn a lot about helping people in inpatient psychiatric institutions or day programs, but we don't learn a lot about helping the everyday person that's just struggling with sleep, struggling with eating well, exercising, using our self-regulation skills to calm ourselves down. And so I wanted to learn more about that. So I began my journey of, learning more about cognitive behavioral therapy and using it as a framework for my treatment in the outpatient setting.
Oh wow, wow, that's great that you mentioned that because and it's a double bogey because I love when what the guests say lead me exactly into my very next question. But here on Mental Health is Wealth, we do have a special focus on cognitive behavior therapy and
Great.
the skills. I have a gentleman that I'm definitely trying to make something happen with in the near future, but they do a men's meeting every second and fourth Monday, where where this next Monday they'll be discussing cognitive distortions.
Uh-huh.
So this topic is really pegging on right now, and I love it. I love it. So
Yeah.
can you kind of explain a little bit of how cognitive behavioral therapy techniques integrate into our occupational therapy practice?
Yeah, so for me, for someone to see me for services, their mental health issues have to be adversely affecting their ability to do their daily activities that are important. So if someone comes to
Mm,
me and is worried or depressed, but they're going to work fine, they're managing their bills, they're exercising, they're doing all the things they need to, then I can't see them for talk therapy. I'm not trained in psychoanalysis. So, but what I am trained in is figuring out what they're not doing and how to take action to make
mm,
moves towards those things they want to change. So let's say they're not sleeping. Okay, well, what actions can we take to get you to sleep better? What are we going to do this week? And so every week we have actionable strategies that we use, and then the next week they come back and we kind of analyze how things went and make moves from there. And usually I see people for about 12 sessions. And I recently published research on the approach that I've been using and found it to be really effective.
wow, wow, that's amazing. So, you mentioned that when they at the point they're coming to see you, there's something in their day-to-day activities that's being hindered. Um, or
Yeah.
when it comes to the things that they want to help, are any of those things outside of their own want? Are they like prescribed by another therapist or anything? Do you work in that capacity in any ways?
Well, yeah, so actually my biggest referrer right now is, a psychiatrist, and she's really good at understanding because she's found that some people don't respond to medication and some people need
Mm,
more than medication, and so she'll send those people to me, and, we work on things from that aspect, but yeah, they do have to be kind of struggling with multiple at least like 2 areas of their daily life, and they also need to be in a place of action. So if I have somebody come
mm,
in and they're like, I don't feel good, but I don't wanna make any changes," then I won't see that person for services because they have to be willing to make these moves.
yeah, I absolutely understand that. Yes,
Yeah,
you can't force anything on anybody. They have to want it for themselves more than anything.
totally, yeah.
Great, that's amazing. Um, so are there any misconceptions when it comes to your field specifically that you address with people, or anything that might make one skeptical from joining that type of therapy?
Yeah, I had a lot of when I first started this service line in 2018, I had a lot of pushback from providers, dietary, other psychologists that thought I was kind of stepping on their toes. And it took a lot of education
Mm,
to show them what I was doing, how it was in my scope, and how it differs from what they're doing. And once I could clarify that with people, I mean, some of those people are now my best referral sources, but it was just confusing because nobody really knows what occupational therapists do. I mean, it's a great title because it allows us to kind of work in a lot of different settings, but it's also
uh,
hard for people to kind of understand where what we do and what our scope is.
wow, wow, that's some good stuff. You make a friend out of an enemy. You gotta love that. So, I understand that with things like patient doctor confidentiality, but are you able to share any impactful cases or anything particularly that you might have helped someone with, that might have even opened up eyes or opened up new beginnings for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think just I work with children, teens, and adults, and I think just seeing how
Okay.
quickly people can improve their situation is really cool to see. Like I see so much progress in just like 3 months. Just once a week for 3 months, I see so much progress, and that's really inspiring. I mean, people are really like going out there and making these changes, and they feel better, they're participating in things they enjoy more, and it's really rewarding to see that.
Oh, that's good. Or what are some ways that you can kind of gauge or measure someone's improvement over a month or 2 month period, something like that?
Good question. Yeah. So when I first see them, I take like a baseline assessment, which is I use an occupational performance measure where I go through their day and figure out what areas are hard for them because of this mental health issue and how they feel they're performing those activities and how happy they are with that performance. And then 3 months later, at about 12 sessions, I re-administer that assessment, and that's when I can get those numbers. And so it's really cool too because I can show the patient, look how much change you've made. You've improved all of your scores by so much. Like you're ready to discharge and go out on your own. And my goal is for them to be their own therapist by the time therapy concludes.
Oh, okay, okay. Kind of give them their own tools to find their own benefits in the game.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, you say you've been in since 2014 in this field.
Mhm.
Are there been any changes significant from when you began to how you address the therapy practices now?
Yeah, especially with like billing and insurance, that is always changing. And I really have to stay on top of that because what I'm doing in the clinic setting is kind of like I don't have any guidance. I'm kind of doing it on my own. So I have to really pay attention to how I'm documenting and what codes I'm billing to make sure that my patients are getting covered by their insurance companies. So that's really a big kind of an ongoing hurdle that you have to kind of deal with.
Oh, wow. Wow. Are there any other hurdles or might say stigmas that you might address to people that are interested in following this as a mental health issue?
Well, I think it's just important to treat mental health issues as anything else, as like, I hurt my shoulder or I hurt my back. It's not who we are, it's something we're dealing with and we're getting through. Everyone can improve how they think because we have this ability to change the way our brain pathways work. We have this neuroplasticity. So you're never too old to make changes to your brain and how you think about things. And that's really powerful for people to understand too.
Oh, okay. So that old saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks is absolutely not true in your
Not
opinion.
true.
Okay, I love it because I'm starting to find gray hairs, and whew, it hurts every
Yeah.
single time I find one. I swear. So, how do you stay updated with the information or the latest research and developments in your field? What are some tools that you might run to?
Well, I'm a part of the AOTA and also the California Association of Occupational Therapy, so the national organization and also my state organization. And I get the magazine that shows me what recent research is doing, and I try and stay on top of it that way. But recently, when I was looking to publish my paper, I was in school, so I had access to tons of research, and that was pretty cool to be able to figure out what people are doing. And it helped me, understand where I needed to go with my research.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have a list here. I always like to throw out some randomness with these interviews. We have some issues and recommendations that they have. So, what I was going to try is to throw out the problem for you
Okay.
and ask for an example of a recommendation that you might give an individual dealing with it.
Okay, let me turn on the light though, because I realized it got dark in here.
Okay, okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah, it's like the days are getting longer, I
The
was like, "Oh my gosh, it's
days,
getting
yeah.
dark later."
That sun just flew by. All
Okay.
right. Well, let me see. I might skip some because looks like there's about 12 on this list. So I'm definitely going to skip a few.
Okay.
Um, let's see here. Fine motor skills. Difficulty with small movements involving hands and fingers, if that's correct.
And is it a question or do you want me to explain how I work on that?
Yeah, what would be a recommendation that or some way that you would address someone with that is listed as a problem, so I'm going to say problem.
Okay, yeah. So for that, I actually started out as a pediatric OT, so I have like a million games in different ways.
Mm.
So because with children, especially that's a lot of who I get the fine motor referrals for. They're learning so much, so they need to be challenged in a different way every time they come to see me, and
Ah.
they also need to think that it's fun. So I have to use a bunch of different strategies that
Hmm.
work out those muscles, but that are actually like a game for the child, and they don't really realize that we're doing therapy.
Okay. I'm glad you said that. So I'm gonna put pause on this interview right quick, and I'm gonna redirect to a topic that's going around the city right now in St. Louis. Um, I just want to get your personal opinion on this. They are discussing banning cell phones from a particular high school.
Okay.
And one of the, I would say, reasonings that someone gave that they shouldn't is because the curriculum in school isn't fun enough to keep them off of their phones and devices. So, what would be your opinion on that personally?
I mean, I'm not a teacher, but I will say, in my therapy, I never it's so rare that I use screens for any type of treatment activity because kids get so much of that. Like I want to make sure that they're really, really engaged in a different way. And kids want to do other things. You just have to, like I said, it's like you have to just make it interesting and novel and fun for them. And it has to be kind of like that every time, or else they will kind of tune out and not want to not want to come anymore, or the screen becomes
Mm,
important.
okay, so that's kind of on both ends that you wouldn't necessarily want to fight to keep the phones in their hands, but you do agree with that they need to make that curriculum a little better,
Yeah, I mean, it's just
more
tough because
engaging.
it's technology is, it's not like it's gonna um go away. So we have to learn how to manage it together, so that they can learn on their devices and also be engaged in other ways. So they're still getting both because they need technology too. They need to do that when they graduate school. It's not realistic that they're just not going to have access to technology when they turn 18. So it's good to, I don't know, work on both ends of the spectrum, I guess.
I can understand. Got to have a good mix. All right.
Yeah.
Well, unpause. Let's get back. All right. Let's see here. We talked about fine motor skills. All right. So activities with the children particularly. Let's see. Sensory. Oh, okay. I think we have a video on this coming up also a little later.
Okay.
Sensory processing. I,
Yeah, so sensory processing is when we don't interpret cues from our environment successfully, which end up
hmm.
as these behavioral or emotional outcomes or outbursts. So maybe we are really uncomfortable with like loud sounds, then we might avoid going to crowded places or be uncomfortable at school. Or maybe you have a child who's very averse to touch or like the feeling of being too close to people. They might end up being aggressive towards peers because they're just uncomfortable. And so that child needs to learn how to process these cues from their environment in a way that can help them get along with their peers and be able to be functional in their environments, which is, the ability to be able to play, socialize, go to school, sleep, those kind of things. So I use a lot of heavy work activities, getting kids to use their bodies, like push-ups, yoga, like kind of those heavy
Hmm.
work things. And then with touch processing, just different ways to explore different sensations in like a safe environment so that they know that it's okay to have these
Oh,
sensations.
okay. Oh, that's very, very interesting. Okay. Hmm. I don't know if I should ask this or not. It sounds kind of messy, but I'll go for it. Self care skills.
Yeah, so self-care is kind of a huge umbrella. It's actually the code that I bill the most in my mental health practice as well, because it's all about, I mean, we're really just trying to take care of ourselves, right? Like, we're trying to feel better, we're trying to work better, we want to take care of ourselves, and that kind of encompasses a lot of different things in the mental health arena. It encompasses participating in leisure activities and making sure you're making time for yourself, eating healthy, all those things we need to do. When you're a child, self-care means we have to be able to tie our shoes and but zip our jackets and brush our teeth, that kind of, those everyday tasks.
Oh, okay. So you could do it does break down for any age range and levels
Yeah,
and things. That's great.
absolutely.
I'm very interested in finding even knowing what this is. Executive functioning. Sounds very hard to understand.
Executive function, yeah. So it's funny because that's also like the biggest referring code I get. So like when a provider refers a patient to me for mental health or insomnia or ADHD, any kind of mental issue we're having, it's often they'll refer as executive functioning deficit, because that includes things like planning, organizing, our working
Oh,
memory, self-regulation. It's like a huge umbrella. So basically, if we're not structuring things in our brain correctly, we're going to have problems in our daily life. So I work with them on those kind of things, like time management, uh, all those things that kind of suffer when we're not feeling good.
okay. That kind of couples with the ones listed, but so that could be something like me myself. I really have an issue with organizing my schedule. Like I'm
Totally.
good with organizing information and facts and uh putting stuff together, but my personal schedule, I'm horrible. If I don't put it on the calendar immediately, the next 3 days are going to be out of whack. So is that something that I personally could like come to someone like yourself to get help with?
Totally. Yep. I help people with organizational and time management skills a lot, and figuring out how to squeeze in something important into our day that's really, really packed. So understanding how to break down our day to figure out where we can, where we're missing skills and where we can kind of organize things a little better to make sure we're getting to everything, not forgetting things, teaching people about, using apps. I mean, I think we forget that we've got this technology and we expect ourselves to just remember things. And like, we can only take in so much information. So if we can
Yeah.
offset those things that we don't absolutely have to keep on our brains, let's do it, because we have more important things to think about. So let's figure out how to get these things written down in a way that works for us so that we can think about the things that are important, like our work or our art or whatever it is.
Wow. Man, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. A lot of these things I see are kind of similar in what you've kind of already mentioned. They have play skills, social skills, regulation skills. I've heard you mention that word particularly. So I'll touch on this very last one and see adaptive skills. What would you say about that?
Yeah, adaptive skills kind of mean that whatever you are learning that's new, you're able to translate it across environments. So if you learn how to think about things more realistically, for example, let's say you are scared of socializing because you feel like people are judging you. Well,
Mm,
it's probably not true, right? Like, a lot of us are so worried about what others are thinking that we're not paying attention to you. So, and nobody else is paying attention to anybody else because they're all worried about ourselves. And unless somebody says, I don't like you, we can't assume that that's true. And so
mm,
understanding that we have to look at things realistically. What do we know for sure? What's a fact? Well, it's not a fact that they don't like us because they gave us a funny look. They had a funny look. Maybe they had a weird thought. Maybe they were stressed about something. We don't know unless they tell us. So looking at things realistically instead of getting too caught up on what we think, because feelings are not facts, they're just feelings. And until we figure out whether those things are true or not, we can't really give them much clout. And so you can start to use that adaptive strategy of, wait a second, what evidence do I have for this thinking? Is it true, or is it just a thought that's unhelpful?
Mm.
And you can kind of use that across your environments.
Man. That, whew, great information. I just can't tell you enough how it's just hitting my soul. I
Oh, good.
understand because especially with what you just mentioned, because it makes me want to kind of rephrase something that I say often. I mentioned it yesterday. No, actually, Saturday. Um, Shout out to Louis Wood. It's been real showcase. I hosted a show. Just gotta say goodbye to them. It's been real. But I mentioned to the audience that, especially with us as entertainers, we signed up for a game where everybody is not going to like us. It's kind of
Totally.
something, we have to accept everybody's not going to like you. But I feel like I should kind of rephrase that statement because, like, even though I have the evidence to support that, but
Mhm,
I feel
mhm.
like just being in a positive light, I could rephrase that statement as to, you know what? People got lives too. Maybe they didn't
Right.
see your flyer. Maybe, what I'm saying, it's not that they don't like you, that they didn't show up to your show. They got lives too. Something's going on in their day. You don't know. So I'm just thinking maybe I can rephrase that statement. So thank you for the
Yeah.
help me.
Yeah, I mean, we can't take those things personally, it's like, I don't know why that person didn't text me back, they're like, "Oh, they don't like us
Right.
anymore." Well, they probably forgot, or they got busy, or they don't really like text. I mean, there's a million reasons, and,
Yeah.
also thinking about not everyone can like us. Well, let's just pay attention to the people that do, because is it helpful for us to think about the people that don't like us? Not
Right.
really, unless you can learn something, but usually it's really just not helpful or healthy for our minds to think about that. So what we do want to focus on are the people that do like us and the things that we did do during our day, not that 1 minute of mistake we made at work. Let's think about the rest of the 8 or 9 hours that we were at work that went well.
Right.
So
It was a
focusing
10-hour
on
workday. You messed up once. You did
right,
good.
right. Yeah, totally.
Man, I love it. I love it. I'm gonna work on that, helping myself with my own mental health. Well, this might be a quick break for some. This is a 4-minute video. Okay. So this is touching on what we had mentioned a little bit with sensory processing. So
Mhm,
let's check this video out, see what they got to say. And I think it's about kids specifically. So
okay.
if there's anybody out there who might have a child that's dealing with, I believe we would call them let me get back to that, like play skills, social issues, regulation skills, attention and focus, anything like that. These might be some of the type of therapy or exercises practices that could help. So let's see what we have on this.
Sophia is 4 years old and has been coming to OT primarily for inefficiencies with processing and modulation of sensory input. This means that her nervous system requires increased amounts of input and sensory experiences throughout the day to help her maintain a calm, organized state. The goal is to provide these children with structured sensory experiences in treatment and at home on a daily basis, so they do not have to seek out input in ways that disrupt participation in daily tasks. Placing weights on her ankles and wrists allows Sophia to have a better sense of her body in space. They also work to help keep her grounded and slow her movements. Sophia also exhibits immature grasp patterns, which can lead to quick fatigue with drawing and writing tasks, as well as decreased control when using fork or spoon for self-feeding. We incorporate resistive games with Play-Doh, putty, tongs, and tweezers to assist with the development of her hand musculature and improve grasp patterns. For a greater challenge, I ask her to sustain the grasp while carrying it from one point to another. As you can see, this increases the difficulty, but turning the path into an obstacle course makes the game fun. We also incorporate reaching across midline into our sessions. This helps to develop integration between left and right sides of the body and facilitates trunk rotation. Having a strong sense of midline provides Sophia with a reference point from which she can move. Playing games on her stomach helps to strengthen her core and upper extremities. While this can be tiring, we are able to make the task motivating by using the scooter board to retrieve puzzle pieces. Like the wrist weights shown earlier, this weighted vest provides additional input and boundaries for Sophia. It allows her to have improved control of her movements as she navigates people and obstacles within her environment.
Can you find number 2?
Here, we are working on eye-hand coordination and slow, controlled arm movements, as well as more midline crossing. As the task itself is not too challenging, she is sitting on an uneven surface, requiring her to engage her core while she is completing the activity. We practice moving fast and slow during different games to help Sophia learn to grade her movements. In this game, I assist her in swinging the fishing pole fast and slow. As you can see, at this time, she continues to prefer going fast, as it is difficult and takes much more effort to move at a slow, controlled pace. Another way to organize a child's movement is to have them participate in heavy work activities, including lifting, pushing, and moving heavier items. We incorporate this into our session as a part of cleaning up activities. Lastly, we use the Bosu ball to help Sophia work on core strength and balance, as well as to slow her down and separate her arm movements from movements of her trunk. Furthermore, to provide her with additional sensory input, quick changes in head position are included within games. One way we do this is having her bend down, which places her head in an inverted position. Here you can see she is reaching for toys presented through her legs. We also work on reaching up and looking back to retrieve toys held over her head. It is important that we end our sessions with calming, organizing input. While not shown here, the last 5 to 10 minutes of Sophia's sessions are generally spent with the lights down, slow, rhythmic swinging, and breathing activities. This helps to slow her nervous system and regulate her state of arousal after all of the movement she engaged in during the session.
Thank you.
Well, look, I am no expert on occupational therapy, but one thing I do know, on the next cornhole tournament, I'm taking Sophia with me. Did you see that shot?
She was good.
Whoa, I was like, whoa, I'm not that good. And I've been practicing for a while. That was amazing. That was good. Good job, Sophia. Love it. Man. So does a lot of that translate into your world and the practices that you've done personally?
Yeah, definitely. I work with, I've been working with children on those kind of skills for a very long time. Yeah, it's fun. And,
Oh, wow.
it's sometimes and a lot of those kiddos that struggle with those sensory integration things can also struggle with things like attention and also like their self-confidence. Their self-esteem is low because they don't feel good about themselves. And so we work on those skills as well. So making sure that they're assessing who they are as a person realistically and making sure they have that self-confidence, in their daily life.
Wow, man, that's amazing. Yeah, I love anything that helps the kids, especially. But and I got to work on this because I always got a joke in the back of my head because I feel like we need to work on some of that with adults because they don't know anything about personal space themselves and attention itself. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Nobody can't even watch the same channel for 10 minutes right now.
Oh, I know.
This is crazy. So, as always here on Mental Health is Wealth, we do address the main areas: mental health, physical health, and financial health. I hope you all accept that video as our addressing physical health this week because that's all I got for you. There was some physical activities going on the screen. You got it. So we will be moving on to our segment on financial health now. Um, I will play a video coming up shortly here that will be about occupational therapy versus physical therapy as a career. So if anyone might be interested in staying into the end of the show, and we're gonna play that to go out. But to address some things here with physical, well, since we're talking about careers to end the show, I was going to talk about the financial segment today with IRAs and 401ks, which often comes along with your career. So if you are working for a company that does offer some sort of retirement benefits, this usually comes in maybe a pension, it might be a 403b, might be a 401k, IRAs, and sometimes you have other options with these tools. So quick, let's see, let's pull up our slide for IRAs. All right, so here is just some quick information that we have. If you have a 401k offer at your job, how it compares to an IRA, which stands for individual retirement account. It's called an individual retirement account because it's not controlled by any company, it's not controlled by any other entity. This is you establishing your own account. You will manage this account. Of course, you do have an option to hire a financial advisor or consultant or someone to manage it for you, but this is individual retirement account established by you for you. As you can see on the slide here, individual sets up investment account. And the 401k is an employer sponsored retirement plan where the employer creates this plan for you. Since it was about 2011, 2012, where the government actually started companies to be required to have a 401k or some sort of retirement benefit for you at your job. So definitely, if you're not already invested in your 401k with your current company, look into those options and make sure you can maximize those for yourself. Again, so the employer sponsored retirement plan, you also may contribute to the plan along with the employer. In a lot of cases, when the employer establishes this plan for you, they have what they call a contribution match. So an employer might put in 1, 2, 3% of your annual income. And if you yourself contribute to it, the company may match up to a certain percent that they maxed out, usually around 5 or 6, some companies 10% or more. The account per employee, you get a percent of each paycheck that goes into it, and basically the rest goes into the employee. IRA, you get to choose how much you're putting into that. Both of these vehicles do have a maximum contribution yearly. So if you do have a 401k or IRA, the maximum contribution that you can put into it annually is around 5,500. That number does change. It used to be around 4,000 a few years ago, then move up to 5,000, then 5,500. So always pay attention to the rules and the benefit options for yourself. Um, with the IRA, you have investment options, which means you can buy stocks, you can buy bonds, you can buy ETFs, you can, in some particular cases, you can even buy options in the IRA. Depending on the firm, I'm not suggesting you do options in your IRA, but if you're good at it and you're a qualified investor, you can get approved to do options also in your IRA. Tax advantages, you get to deduct the amount of your contribution to your IRA and also your 401k from your annual income. So if, say, example, you make 60,000 a year, you contribute 5,000 to your IRA, you report that you make $55,000 to the IRA, to the IRS, and that's the amount that you're taxed on that year. So the same thing, it has a investment benefit for the IRA, and the 401k has more of a wealth benefit. Not necessarily saying that it's not invested, but you have more investment options through an IRA account. So, another thing to consider when looking at both of these investment vehicles, 401ks and IRAs, you can have an IRA and a 401k. Your company controls one, you have a personal account. Your contribution is maxed out, regardless of what it is. Your contribution maxed out at a certain point. But a reason to have both vehicles is to roll over your 401ks into your IRAs. So, just to mention quickly, another option for your IRA account would, or in 401ks, that is actually established now. You could convert your 401k or your IRA to what they call a Roth IRA, which has significant tax benefits. So, I understand that you might have some questions about that. What questions might you have on that? Any of that information, Monica?
Yeah, I wanted to know more about, so I have a 403B at my work, and I was contributing doing like the pre-tax, but I just recently switched to a Roth deferral within that 403B, and I was
Mm.
wondering what your thoughts were on like that, doing that Roth instead of, the pre-tax, like the traditional way.
Okay. Well, particularly one thing I always point out with anyone that is well, anyone that is 10 or more years away from retirement.
Okay.
One thing is to consider that is when you're older, you people generally have more assets. And your asset level is what comes with your taxation. That's what controls the percentage of taxes that you pay, the amounts that you're able to contribute, withdraw, things like that. So for young people who are uh, just starting a career, um, just starting investment, Roth vehicles are very good because you're paying taxes now when your tax bracket is at a lower rate than when you're going to be 60, 65. Your asset level is going to be much higher,
Okay.
potentially or ideally, and you'll start to withdraw this money and you'll be paying a higher tax percentage. Another great benefit to the Roth uh, vehicle is that after monies have been in the account for so long, some 5, some 10 years with when you consider the 401ks and 403bs, after they've been in for so long, when you get to retirement age 70 and a half or 72, by the time we get there, it's going to be 75 when we can start to use our own retirement money. Um, that if basically having a Roth now is that I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought so quick there. Uh, but so the okay, the second benefit to these Roths is that you after they've been in for so long, you don't have to pay taxes on them.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
so I was trying to think of the particular. Let me just Google it. Actually, I think with Roth IRAs, I think they have to be in for 5 years with Roth IRAs.
I think you're right. I think it's the same for the Roth deferral with if you do that with your company too, I think.
Okay. So yeah, yeah, it looks like that is it. 5 years. The 5-year rules. After converting from a traditional IRA to Roth IRA, you must wait 5 years before withdrawing the converted balance. So yeah, that's the significant balance, the benefit that I was trying to get to. That
Yeah,
after the monies you convert when you're 30, 35, 40, 45, whatever age, by the time you get to using these monies in your 70s, 60s, even if you retire early in your 60s, they've been in there for 5 years. So
right.
you have no penalty to avoid when it comes to these. You do have other ways to avoid the early withdrawal penalties. because that is the one thing to consider, especially with Roth. You have to wait to use this money. If you take it out early, you get extra taxes on top of the income taxes that you have with it. So some of the it's some of the things to consider when it comes to the Roth IRAs versus the traditional.
Do you feel like keep like thinking about how you could use it after 5 years, like without a penalty? So like for
Hmm.
the Roth deferral for work, you can contribute up to 23,000
Hmm.
for the work one, and 7,000 for the personal. But so do you think it's like do you think it's the best idea to like do the 23% into your work one and treat it kind of as like a high earning savings account rather than like having it in like a 4% interest savings account where you can just like grab it? Like which would you think is the better decision?
So when you use those percentages specifically, like 23%, that I use this, there's an investment rule. You know, as much as you can when you're young, max
Yeah.
out everything.
Yeah.
Max everything. You can afford to live without that money, especially when you're getting raises. If you plan to get a raise within the next 1 or 2 years, just act like you don't get that money because you're used to living where you are, you know?
Yeah.
But one of the things I would say, so use your age as a good gauge with that. There's the 100 rule that we use in the investment world. So if you're 45, you have more time ideally to recover from investment bumps. You know, investments, they move up and down, you know. So
Mhm.
over 5 years, you don't have time to play with that money. Over 10 years, you have more time to recover. Over 20 years, you have even more time to recover. So
Mhm.
maxing those percentages is always best if you have that time to recover, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's Here we go with that. So and the 100 rule that I mentioned, you use that with your age. So let's just use investing in an IRA. If you convert it to a Roth IRA and you do have the options to use stocks in your IRA versus bonds or mutual funds, if you're 50, your ratio to stocks and mutual funds investment should be kind of I and I. If you're 60, you should start moving kind of more into the mutual funds and less into the stocks. If you're 70, you kind of start to gauge that 70% to safe investments, 30% into a little bit of risky, just so you can make some money. So when you mention things about 5% yield, being you look fairly young. Being a young woman, that's not I wouldn't say that's the best thing for it. But
Mhm.
then again, you have that if you have multiple vehicles, one could be ideally better for it versus the other. Let's say
Right.
examples with IRAs, you can withdraw money from an IRA with no penalty for a first time home purchase. Um,
Mhm.
you can withdraw monies from these accounts for things like education without any penalties. So there are other ways to get these monies out. And let's just say that you're using your Roth for your retirement, but you don't roll over your full 403b every year. You use portion of that for your kids' education fund. So at that point, you want to consider keeping that as a safe investment with the high yield savings because it's going to generate some sort of yield that will keep up with inflation, and you're not at risk of losing much of it because you don't
Right.
want to play with your kids' education money. You
Yeah.
know, so just a lot to consider. It all falls down to a person's personal options and what they're trying to achieve with it. But yeah,
Yeah.
so you that's the one thing just to look at it. What you need at retirement and what you can use these monies for.
Right. Okay.
So,
That's really
so
helpful.
if you have the room to play risky, play risky. If you can't play, yeah, go with that savings.
Yeah.
You know, I hope I'm not confusing you too much.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions you might have?
No, I don't think so. That was my main one, and like I said, it's funny because I was just trying to figure this out today. I was just reading about it today, so thank you.
Okay, great, great. This is actually the first time the guest actually had a question on what we were talking about specifically. Man, I'm loving this one. I'm loving this one. Good, good. So, let's see here. One quick more we have here. This is touching more about um spreading it out. You know, like I said, you have to look at your options and what you need. This is a acronym put together by Professor Kez. Get your shit together. That stands for SHIT, savings account, around 2000 for emergencies, high yield dividends funds, buy stocks that pay a portion of their earnings, like real estate investment trust. Invest in your 401k or IRA, 6% of income. That's what I was mentioning earlier when it comes to the maximum contribution. And again, in a lot of cases, when you have that maximum contribution option, your company is going to give an option to match up to a maximum amount. So look at all of those options, especially if your company has an option to match your contribution, because that's just free money laying there. That it is literally free money if you don't take that match. I can't put it any clearer. It's free money. Last, the T stands for terminate your credit card debt and student loan debt. Start a side hustle, sell your skill online, or work part time to pay above minimum. Always, always, always. I'm a big advocate on having personal side hustles or just own your own business in some way. Um, Financial freedom is something we all need to achieve, and it's there for us. I believe no matter if you work part time, work full time, whatever the case may be, we it's enough money in this world for us all to be rich. I promise you. I've seen the numbers with my own eyes. I promise you, there's enough money for us all. So just go out there and get a little bit for yourself. That's all I say. Get it. But again, today I have to thank you so very much. This has been a great interview. I know when people hear me say this on every single interview that they like this guy here. No, I absolutely mean it. The information that's been shared has been great, been spot on with everything because I try to do a little research. So everything that I put up research is just aligning up,
Yeah.
and you had questions for me. I love that. And you said I didn't confuse you, so my answers made some sort of sense. I love it. Man. Um, I hope we get to do some sort of work in the future. Do you have any platforms, websites, anything that you want to let the people know, any outlets that uh the people need to know, anything else last minute?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. And then I also have a website called the Outpatient Mental Health OT.com. And then I do workplace wellness too, which is resilienceredesigned.org. And they'll take you to kind of the same place if anybody wants to contact me or learn more.
Great. We do this is actually a live broadcast now, but we do take these interviews, chop them up and repost them. So make sure we have your information on all of those, and we'll share those with the audio and any other app that we put them on. So again, I have to thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank
Um,
you.
I hope this is the last time we encounter each other, and I'll be paying attention to my eye on any information that I see coming from your way. Again, we're going to end with the occupational therapy versus physical therapy video. So, anyone who might be interested in joining either of those fields, this might be helpful for you to help you pick one path or the other. But again, thank you for listening to Mental Health is Wealth, the podcast where we explore the connection between your mental well-being and your financial success. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and learned something new, because I definitely did. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to email us at theplaygroundtv@outlook.com or leave us a review. We love to hear from you. Appreciate your support. Remember, you're not alone in your journey. Your mental health is your greatest asset. Until next time, stay healthy, stay wealthy, stay tuned.
Are you a high school student interested in helping people recover after an injury or a health setback? Do you want to help people stay active and promote healthy living? Well, then a career in physical therapy or occupational therapy might be the right fit for you. Don't know the difference between the two? I'll give you more info right now. Hey Bobcat Nation, I'm Nicole. If you're interested in science, the human body, and helping others, physical or occupational therapy might be right for you. Physical therapists and occupational therapists can be seen in many different settings, treating patients of all ages with a variety of medical conditions or injuries. PTs and OTs work with other members of the healthcare team to provide patients with quality care that will help them achieve their health and recovery goals. You might be asking yourself, what's the difference between PT and OT? Physical therapists treat patients of all ages with many different diagnoses ranging from neurological, cardiovascular, respiratory, musculoskeletal, and more. They interview and thoroughly examine their patients to develop treatment plans that help improve their ability to move, reduce or manage pain, restore everyday function, and prevent disability. Occupational therapists are also members of the rehabilitation team who help prevent disability and promote health and well-being. They work with clients to learn or regain the motor, sensory, cognitive, and social skills for the job of living. OTs may help a child with autism in school with handwriting and participation in classroom activities, a young adult with Down syndrome at work with job-related skills, or an older adult who had a stroke at home with self-care tasks such as bathing. If you're interested in becoming a physical or an occupational therapist, you're going to need to get an undergraduate and graduate degree. Both programs at Quinnipiac are ranked as some of the best in the United States and are two of the few programs in the nation that are entry level, which means that students apply to the OT or PT program as an incoming college first year, and as long as undergraduate program requirements are met, they will progress directly to the graduate program. If you're interested in physical therapy, students start off as health science studies majors and then transition to the Doctorate of Physical Therapy program, completing both degrees in 6 or 7 years. If you want to explore more about what Quinnipiac's physical therapy program can offer you, click here for more info. If you're interested in occupational therapy, students earn their Bachelor's of Health Science Studies and then their Master's of Occupational Therapy in 5.5 years, or Doctorate of Occupational Therapy in 6 years. Students hit the ground running by taking OT-specific classes their first year. To learn more about Quinnipiac's occupational therapy program, click here. Both programs at Quinnipiac pride themselves on creating well-rounded professionals prepared to make a difference in patient care. If you want to make a difference as a physical or occupational therapist, click here for more information. Go Bobcats!
Hello, I'm Jing Rong, an occupational therapist from Tan Tock Seng Hospital. Let me give you the latest scoop. Occupational therapy is about regaining independence in everyday activities, from managing household chores with confidence to re-engaging with personal hobbies. To help individuals regain their independence, we modify activities, retrain skills, and introduce helpful tools. For example, we use sock aids or even a simple towel to assist those with mobility issues to wear socks. For our visually impaired patients, we may suggest tools such as water level indicators to help them safely gauge water levels. For our caregivers, we may adapt methods such as using a walking stick to effortlessly load a wheelchair into a car. These simple yet effective solutions empower both patients and caregivers. As occupational therapists, we help patients reconnect with their lives one step at a time, whether it's commuting or enjoying life's simple pleasures. We adapt homes and routines for seniors, ensuring they can live safely and independently, and offer personalized solutions to support caregivers in their journey. Our Return to Work program focuses on rebuilding confidence, helping patients reintegrate into the workforce after injury or illness. Through our Driving Assessment and Rehabilitation program, we help patients with conditions like spinal cord injury, stroke, and amputation regain independence on the road. We also specialize in hand therapy, advanced robotics rehabilitation, and create innovative solutions to improve patient care. At the heart of what we do is empowerment, helping patients live their best lives.